You are listening to the Revisionist Almanac, part of the Movie Archer podcast network, taking aim at modern entertainment. Thanks for stopping by. It is Andrew here from the Revisionist Almanac. In addition to all the normal monthly Almanac episodes where guests and I revise past film years and their Oscars, I've got a slew of new content dropping throughout 2026. One of those will be a quarterly animation special where I'm going to be joined by my wonderful friend, Britt Reinholz-Hobson from the 1001 by 1 podcast. Now, Britt had something come up that needs to take precedent, so I'm going to be doing a little bit of an abridged version of this quarter, and you can expect the two of us back together in June as we reflect on Q2. However, with this being the first quarterly animation special, I'm going to walk you through some of the areas Britt and I will cover going forward. To start things off, I wanted to highlight the Oscars follow-up, specifically in the two animation categories. In terms of the Best Animated Feature, K-pop Demon Hunters took home that Oscar, and it also won for Best Original Song, Golden. No surprise, I am so glad that K-pop Demon Hunters won both of those Oscars. I actually thought in totality this was a pretty good field. I found Arco to be incredibly endearing. If you have not had a chance to see the film Arco yet, I highly recommend you check it out. I thought Elio was a pretty good movie, probably the weakest of the five in the field. Little Amelie wasn't necessarily my favorite, however, I do understand why it was in the five. And then Zootopia 2, which is a really tremendous follow-up to the original film. Glad to see it there as well. And then in the Best Animated Short category, the Oscar went to The Girl Who Cried Pearls. I could not be happier for Chris Lavis and Maciek Szczerbowski. Britt and I had the chance to interview those two gentlemen, some terrific filmmakers, earlier before the Oscars. It was cool to see them win the award. They put in 5 years of their time to make this animated short film. It definitely showed in the final project, and they are fully deserving of the win. I also really enjoyed the other four nominees: Butterfly, Forever Green, The Three Sisters, and then another filmmaking team I got to interview for the Retirement Plan short film. That was Tara Lawal and John Kelly. So I hope you go back and check out both of those interviews I did with The Girl Who Cried Pearls and the Retirement Plan teams. They are well worth supporting with your time. Now, something else Britt and I are going to do every single quarter is we're going to recommend a film or two to the other that we haven't seen. We're not going to discuss it ahead of time, and then we're going to unpack it in real time on these specials. So for Q1, Britt recommended two movies to me. She recommended Belladonna of Sadness from 1973, and she recommended Angel's Egg from 1985. I had the chance to get to both of those movies this week, and here's my very brief synopsis. So Belladonna was a wild, wild experience with an ending that'll leave your jaw on the floor. And it made me realize how sad I am that I didn't get the chance to watch this film for my 1973 film year prep, which I did an episode on back last December, because I can see how influential this was and how ahead of its time it was for the 1970s. I'm going to give Belladonna of Sadness an 8.5 out of 10 on a first watch, and I'm passing this recommend on to you, the listener. Go check this film out. And then the other film was Angel's Egg, another wild experience, and I would expect nothing less when Britt recommends something to watch. You always know she's going to come at you with something crazy, and that's why we love her. Angel's Egg is a strange, kind of sci-fi, borderline silent film. It's got biblical allegories, and it's centered around a young woman and an egg. Quite frankly, the movie was awesome, even though I know I didn't catch everything the first time through. Something else I really appreciated about both of Britt's recommends this quarter, they're both under 80 minutes, and they didn't waste a second of your time. I'm going to give Angel's Egg an 8 out of 10, and I do reserve the right to bump up both of these film scores on repeat viewings. As far as the movie I recommended to Britt, I gave her Snow Bear, an animated short film from 2025. This movie was my favorite shortlisted Oscars film in the animated short that didn't get a nomination, and it's currently free for anyone in the world to watch on YouTube. I would highly recommend you check it out over there. It's less than 20 minutes. If you can spare that bit of time, check out Snow Bear. It'll remind you of 90s Disney animation in the best possible way, and it's also got a really great message at the center. And I'm going to get Britt's thoughts on this recommend, as well as the next thing I'm going to recommend to her in Q2 when the two of us reconvene in June. So stay tuned for that. Now, there were 3 notable Q1 animation releases that Britt and I were going to talk to, and that's something else we're going to do each quarter is we're going to talk about the notable movies that came out in that quarter. First up was the film GOAT. This is a basketball-related animated film. I watched this with my boys this week. I thought it was pretty good, though I'm going to say it's not very memorable. It's already been a couple of days, and I've started to forget bits of it. To use a basketball analogy, GOAT is a solid rotation player, but it's not of all-star caliber, and it's certainly not actual GOAT material. But if you have kids, and especially if they're into sports, you could do much worse than checking out this film. Another notable animation film that came out in Q1 is Scarlet, another film I watched this week, and I did not realize that it was Hosada until his name appeared in the opening credits. I'm slowly chipping away at this director's filmography. To this point, I've seen Wolf Children, I've seen The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, and I've seen Belle. I thought that as far as Scarlet goes, the animation style was breathtaking, and I would have loved to see how this movie looked on a big screen. As far as the storyline, it was good, but it probably wasn't as great as some of his past work that I've already seen. In terms of the 4 films by Hosada that I've seen, I would put this number 3 ahead of Belle. And I also have not seen Summer Wars for anybody out there. Britt always raves about how Summer Wars is one of the best animated films ever made. And so I'm kind of saving it for the right place and the right time to make sure I'm in the proper headspace to check out such a revered film by her. And then the third film that came out in Q1 is Pixar's new film, Hoppers. Now, I have not had a chance to see this yet. I've heard very positive things, and I am excited to eventually watch this with my boys. We'll probably get to it when it hits digital over the next few weeks, and I might have a review for it at a later date. Something else Britt and I will do going forward is we'll look at the next quarter as far as animation releases and what we're most excited about in that pocket of time. The 2 big Q2 animation releases that I want to talk about. Number 1, Super Mario Galaxy, which releases on April 1st. Now, my kids are both huge Nintendo kids. I am a Nintendo kid. We all loved the first Super Mario movie that came out a couple of years ago. However, my boys are surprisingly lukewarm on this one at the moment. We've seen the trailers. They just don't seem as enthralled with the idea of going to see it right now. However, I'm sure we're going to go see it over the next couple of weekends, and I am expecting them to have a much better time with it than they probably think they're going to, at least at this point in time. I like the additions that I've seen. We're adding Yoshi. We just got news that Glenn Powell is going to be playing Star Fox in the film. So I think there's a lot of cool elements there, and we're going to continually expand this Nintendo cinematic universe. I'm here for it all. The other notable release is Toy Story 5, which comes out June 19th. Now, when news broke of a new Toy Story movie, my eyes rolled so hard and so fast. Of course, Disney and Pixar will go back to the well of success after multiple original stories have struggled for one reason or another. And I also think, I've got to be quite frank right here, Toy Story 2 is a crime against the franchise, especially after Toy Story 3 concluded such a perfect 3-arc story in the best way imaginable. However, I have to admit the teaser trailer I saw for this new film showed promise. And the more I've seen with it, the idea of technology being the new villain of the toys this time around, it's a clever way to go. So I have gone from being highly skeptical of Toy Story 5 to moderately optimistic at this point in time. Another area that Britt and I will cover in future quarterly episodes is her animated series corner. Now, on my notes here, all I have is I'm going to sit back and I'm going to let Britt cook. She watches a ton of animated television series, anime, all that stuff. She's got a bunch of stuff she's watching right now. I cannot wait to listen. It is not a world that I found myself getting into very often, but she has so much passion for it that I cannot wait to hear what she says. And you never know, she might lead me to something that I'll see for the very first time. In addition to her animated series corner, there is so much that animation encompasses beyond just film, so you might hear the two of us cover any number of areas over the next coming quarters. We're both avid gamers, so video game reviews will get sprinkled in, as well as probably some comic book or graphic novel discussions. And if you have any areas of animation you want the two of us specifically to cover, do me a favor. DM me with your suggestions or email into the show with ideas. Britt and I are welcome to all of that feedback. We want to tailor this to whoever's out there that's listening to the animation specials. And finally, there's one other thing that we wanted to talk about, and that's the Letterboxd Top 250 Animated Films list. This was just posted in late February. It was curated by Rahat Ahmed. What surprised me when I looked at this list of the top 250 animated films of all time by Letterboxd, and I will have that list linked in the description so you can go check it out yourself, I have seen a woeful 52% of that list, 132 films in total, which means there's 118 films I have not gotten to. So my goal for the rest of 2026 is to watch at least a few of these for each of our quarterly animation discussions, and I will report back to you with my progress. What I did do, though, is I pulled the top 20 films on that list, and I quickly scanned it over to see if anything stood out that I haven't seen yet. There are two notable things in the top 20 I have not seen, that being Evangelion, Thrice Upon a Time. I have talked on record before saying Evangelion is just something I've been scared to get into. It seems like such a big world that I don't know where to start. That may be for another date and time. The other one, and I don't know why I've never gotten to this film. It's called Mary and Max. It's ranked 16th on this top 250. I've seen the poster a number of times. I have no idea why I've never gotten to the film, but I do promise I'll try to prioritize that by the next time I reconvene for a quarterly special. In terms of everything else, Grave of Fireflies #1, classic, Spirited Away, Across the Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse, Princess Mononoke, Perfect Blue, Howl's Moving Castle, Fantastic Mr. Fox. I mean, all the big hitters you expect in the all-time great animated films are on this list and represented in the top 20 especially. So again, check it out. Let me know what you've seen in this list. But like I said, this is just a very abridged version. Going forward, Britt and I will probably spend somewhere between 45 and 60 minutes a quarter talking about all of the things we love in animation. I do appreciate you hanging out with just me for a little bit. I also want to preemptively thank Britt for being my animation buddy going forward on future specials. And that is going to do it for Q1. As always, though, I'm Andrew, and I can't wait to see you next time.